Hey guys, today's dinner I'm making a fan favorite, and one of the things that all my fans love when I make is a filet mignon or any kind of steak for that matter. And I've done many videos on this, and actually you can refer to get more in depth my YouTube channel, how to make the perfect steak. You can find how to make it there. Today we're just gonna do a quick version, and it's gonna be, very simple, very easy to make. I'm gonna show you how we're gonna put all this together. So we're making a Yukon Gold mashed potato. We got a Cremini and a Dijon pork cream sauce, which is gonna be fantastic. And then we're making grilled asparagus to accompany that as well. So let's get started. So here I have a beautiful filet mignon that's been at room temperature for about half an hour now. So if it's too cold, when you put it in the pan, what's gonna happen is that it's gonna overcook on the outside and it's still going to be raw in the middle. And that's not what you want. You want it to cook beautifully and evenly. So I'm gonna set that aside right there. And now, see this? We start with our asparagus. So when you're getting really thick asparagus like this, it's best if you just cut the edges off a little bit and then just shave off or peel off the ends. I'm gonna show you how to do this real quick. Now, if you're getting the really thin asparagus, you don't have to worry about that. Just cut off the ends, the purple ends. So I'm gonna show you how to do this. So just take a peeler and just go like that, very simple. See that? That's pretty much it. Nothing really to it, no big deal. Now the reason why you're doing this is because you wanna take away all the tough and chewy and woody flavors from the asparagus. So in this recipe, I'm slicing up some garlic right now. Now if you want, you can chop the garlic, but I like it sliced because I like a little bit of the bite. And here I'm using 4 cloves. I'm gonna set that aside. And I'm just going to be using probably about half of this shallot. So we're just doing a dice, exactly how you do an onion. Okay. All right. That's about right. And I'm just going to place that in the same bowl because we're going to be cooking it together. All right. So now that we have our mise en place in place, let's get cooking. All right, guys, so let's get started. I'm going to show you how to cook the filet mignon. We're going to season it, and I'm going to show you exactly what to do with it. So we're going to start with just a touch of salt and pepper on both sides. Really important to season both sides, right? Meanwhile, our pan is getting hot, so the pan's on high heat. Now we're going to be using my Chef Brik honey and Worcestershire rub, and we're just going to season it very generously on the steak. Make sure we get that all in there. Beautiful. Make sure we really get all that seasoning in there. About a tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil, and start searing the steak. Turn down the medium because we're cooking it in the pan. All right, I'm just gonna set that aside right there. And then you see right here, I already have some Yukon Gold potatoes that have been already strained and cooked with salty water. So I'm just gonna let that go right there. I'm gonna add 1 tablespoon of butter in there and just a touch of hot cream to start, okay? And then just start smashing it. So we're doing this while the steak is cooking. So we're going to be searing it on each side for about 3 to 4 minutes. Okay. See, look at the nice, beautiful, creamy potatoes. Now we're going to add some crème fraîche in there. And start folding that into those potatoes. All right, at the same time, let's see how our steak is doing. All right. Look at that, perfect. So you see the more crème fraîche I added, the creamier it got. See that? Look at that. That's perfect. And what I'm going to do is add some fresh sprigs of thyme and rosemary in there. A few cloves of garlic that I'm gonna smash. Now the reason why we're smashing is, you see that? The natural oils of the garlic are gonna come out. okay? Okay. See that? Those natural oils are coming right out. You can really start to smell that rosemary and thyme. And now we're just going to start basting it with all those flavors in there. I want to try to keep the thyme and rosemary in that butter because the more it stays in there, the more it infuses. All right, boom. That's done. The steak goes on the plate, and now we're just pouring all of that beautiful hard work on top of the steak, just like that. And we're letting it rest. This is the most key component to this dish, is letting the steak rest. Why? Because when you're cooking the steak, all the juices tighten up right in the middle. So as it's resting, they're going to migrate all the way through the steak. So that way you have delicious, flavorful, and beautiful steak at all pieces. Now it's time to make the sauce. So we're starting with a tablespoon and a half of butter, just a smidget of olive oil. And what we want to do here is we want to get this butter brown. Why? Because the brown butter gives it a great nutty flavor to the mushrooms, right? And it's going to add more depth to the sauce. Now we want to add the mushrooms. And at this stage, we can also add the thyme. Now I like to leave the thyme on the sprigs themselves. Why? Because they're easier to pull out and you don't have to worry about those wood flavors and the wood texture when you're actually eating mushrooms. Some people pull them off and then they chop them, but then you end up with wood flavor. This will help you actually take it out with still getting the maximum flavor out of that thyme. So, there we go. You see how amazing that brown butter looks with those mushrooms? So look at all that flavor that's going in there. And you can actually even smell everything. The brown butter, the nuttiness, the thyme, everything looks wonderful. Remember those shallots that we chopped up earlier with the garlic? This is the right time to add it. And at the same time, it's gonna help scrape off all of the fond off of the pan when you're starting to deglaze with the port wine. In the meantime, I'm gonna start grilling our asparagus as well. What I'm gonna do is drizzle the asparagus with just a touch of extra virgin olive oil. Now when you're doing this, folks, always make sure that you take your pan off the heat when you're deglazing, because that happens. It's getting hot in here. There we go. So imagine if you actually poured that port wine right over the pan, just like that. Guess what's gonna burn? Your hand. Take everything off the heat and then add it back to the fire. About a quarter way. And my asparagus are grilling beautifully. So there's a term called nappe. You might see that in a lot of recipes. You might see that in some of my recipes. I'm gonna show you what that looks like. Nappe means almost gone in the pan, right? So it's almost dry. Actually, dry means sec. So when the recipe says sec, that means the pan is almost dry. There's almost no liquid there. That's when you have to keep adding stuff. So the term nappe means just coating the spoon. So I'm gonna show you what that looks like. So you see that it's not quite coating the spoon yet, so I'm gonna keep reducing it down a little bit. And also another way to gauge it is you're gonna notice that the bubbles from the wine are going to get a little bit bigger. That means the sugars are starting to finally come out. See how nice and big they are? That's what that looks like. So now that the sauce has reduced by half with the chicken stock, now it's time to add the heavy cream and the Dijon mustard. And now we're just gonna reduce it down so it's a nice, thick, and creamy sauce. Now you can reduce this down as thick as you want, but I don't suggest doing it too thick. Nice and creamy, great mushroom flavor. Got some of that Dijon, a little bit of salt. So you remember earlier how I spoke about taking that thyme out? See how easy that is? Just take the sprigs out and see those thyme leaves just came out by themselves. So just like that. And it's easy to discard.